UCOC talk. This is really cool to see so many people here. Okay. It's about backpacking. We're going to go over the basics, some safety stuff, leave no trace. It'll be some cool, pretty interesting. Yeah. So I'm Jack. I'm a senior studying biophysics. I'm the vice president. I've done about 35 of the 48. If this weekend goes good, I'll have 38, which would be pretty cool. I've done 50 miles in Shenny, which was our spring break trip last semester, sorry. And I've done a little bit on the Connecticut AT.
What's up? I'm Connor. I'm a senior studying natural resources. I was the vice president last year. A few years ago, I did a section hike of the Appalachian Trail. That is now incorrect. I've done a dozen summits of Mount Washington. Yeah, that's me on the Appalachian Trail in Tennessee. Okay, this is a lot of people, so let's try to go quick. We want to know what your names are. Just say what your name is, what are your pronouns, and how about we just say, if you've got a lot of backpacking experience, just say what you've got. One of you guys go first.
Marcus, he and pronouns. I'm a history major, sophomore, and I have a little bit of experience backpacking.
I'm Rachel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior studying allied health, and I have very little experience at one trip.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa and I'm also have this little equipment and I don't have much experience in hiking. I just do it once and I'm she, her pronouns. It's my first year, so I'm freshman in sociology.
I'm Sophia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a freshman, but I'm undecided. And I have 0 backpacking experience.
Cool.
I'm Maddie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a freshman in marketing, and I don't have any backpacking experience.
Nice.
I'm Layla. I use she, her. I'm a freshman in civil environmental engineering, and I don't have any backpacking experience.
Hi everyone, I'm Frank. My pronoun is he. I'm a Julia and majoring in CSE. I have done twice hiking, and my favorite time is just the fall. And I've really been looking forward to the Lemon Swiss trip, but somehow it get cancelled.
Hi, I'm Jill. Sorry. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore English major, and I've never ever been backpacking in my life.
My name is Al. My pronouns are he, him. My year is freshman. I'm a freshman year. My major is business management, and my favorite time of the year is winter because I like the snow.
My name is Grace. I use she, her. I'm a freshman in animal science. I have no backpacking experience. My favorite time of year is spring.
Nice.
My name is Eamon. I use he, him. I'm a junior studying sociology. Never.
Cool.
My name's Luke. I use he, him. I'm a senior in mechanical engineering. I have no backpacking experience.
My name is Emma. I'm a freshman second major. I have a little backpacking experience.
I'm Caden. I'm a freshman marketing major. Favorite time of the year is also winter, and I have little backpacking experience.
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm M. I'm a junior studying economics, and I have no backpacking experience.
My name is Nolan. I use EM, and I'm a freshman studying CSE, and I have no backpacking experience.
I'm Izzy. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a freshman, and I have no experience.
My name is Melissa. I use she, her. I'm a senior. I'm studying food students, and my favorite time of the year recently was changing from because I'm Nora. My pronouns are she, her. I have 0 backpacking experience. I'm a freshman marketing major.
I'm Nick. Use he, him pronouns. I'm a freshman studying P&B, and I have 0 backpacking experience.
Yeah, I'm Marcus. I'm a grad student. I'm studying math. Yeah, I have 0 backpacking experience.
Cool. Great.
Nice.
Okay, so the first thing that we'll get into is what do people mean when they say they're going backpacking or how much backpacking experience they have, this is kind of important to know, just to tell people, first of all, what you're doing, but also has other implications. Like if you're looking for gear, you want to get gear that's good for backpacking. Okay, so there's kind of a spectrum, starting from like really simple activities like just going for a simple walk. This could be around campus. And then there's like day hiking, peak bagging, car camping, tenting, backpacking, section hiking, then through hiking. Then we have alpinism and mountaineering and trekking. So we'll kind of cover, what those mean. Backpacking refers to hiking with the things that you need to sleep, eat, and live on your back. These are overnight trips. They could be a simple weekend or they could be months-long trips. They require a little more planning than going for just a day hike or a walk in the woods. So section hiking refers to a backpacking trip that is on a through hiking trail, but not doing the entire through hiking trail. We'll talk about what through hiking means, but it really just means not completing an entire through hike. Sections can be lashes, which means long ass section hike, or just a weekend trip. This is a picture of these guys that I ran into, and they were like doing the Appalachian Trail like weekend by weekend.
There's a guy that we're friends with who graduated last semester who came to the Backpacking 101 presentation that we did last semester. No backpacking experience. I think he went up that summer. He did a Pemi Loop, which is like this trail in New England, and it went horrible for them. And then he went to go hike the CDT, which is like one of the longest trails in America. And he's like still on there right now. So that's just something that's cool that I wanted to share.
That's like as long as a lash could be. Really. Like he's just shy of doing the entire CDT through hike. Yeah. So a through hike, if you've never heard of this concept of through hiking, refers to completing an entire established long distance backpacking trail. On through hikes, every mile counts. Some people are kind of weenies about it, and you have to do every single step of the path. There's kind of a debate over what counts as a through hike. Some people are pretty strict about it, and they say you have to do it all in one go. Some people say it just has to be within the course of a calendar year. So you could start in June, and as long as you do every mile of the trail by the next June, then you've done a through hike. And some people, did I just get that wrong? Oh, yeah. In the course of a calendar year, meaning January to January, it has to be in that year. And then what I was saying earlier, in 365 days, June to June. So there's really no right answer. It depends on who you ask. This is an example of a through hike. This is the Arizona Trail that goes the length of Arizona. I think it's 570 miles. This is a picture of the Ice Age Trail, just another long distance backpacking trail. Those are some lesser known through hikes, but they still count as through hikes. This is probably one of the most famous through hikes. It's the Appalachian Trail. It is one of 11 national scenic trails. Those national scenic trails are simply through hikes that the federal government recognizes and takes care of. The Appalachian Trail is about 2,200 miles long. It goes through 14 states. In the south, it starts in Georgia, and in the north, it ends in Maine. You don't have to go from Georgia to Maine. That's how most people go. Usually it takes 5 to 6 months. Costs anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 if you're spending a lot. Each year, about a quarter of the thousands of people that attempt the Appalachian Trail are actually successful. So not a easy feat. That's according to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And the main characteristic of the Appalachian Trail compared to other trails is that it's particularly wet.
Should we talk about Julie?
Yeah, actually, Julie might be finishing today or tomorrow.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. So one of Outing Club's members who has graduated, she graduated with her master's degree in education in the spring, and then decided to go on an AT through hike. And she started relatively late in the year compared to other people, but she was able to like really push miles, and she's done like a really good job of catching up. There's probably people who started in March who are behind her and are going to finish later in October, and she started in May or June and is finishing probably tomorrow or the next day. She like on Sunday she had like 46 miles left, so that was kind of cool. There are different ways to hike the AT. Like I was saying, you can go from Georgia to Maine. That's called NOBO, or northbound. Usually people start around March. This kind of creates a bubble effect where you can imagine if everybody starts in the south around March, there's just like this bubble of population just moving north together. That can have some negative impacts on the trail. It's just this massive crowd moving north all at the same time can really beat up the trail. So the Appalachian Trail Conservancy encourages people to consider going using other methods to through hike. There's also SOBO, southbound, from Maine to Georgia. People start around June. Starting in the north is colder, so you would want to start in June. That I think is like 11% of people who attempt the AT are SOBO hikers, but and then there's also flip-flop, which means you can mean a few different things. The most common flip-flop is coming NOBO to the halfway point and then taking a flight from the halfway point up to Maine and then going SOBO and going back to the halfway point. So, yeah. And then bisection. This kind of like is a callback to what we were talking about earlier, like what constitutes a through hike. If you do a section one year, another section in the next year, and then it takes you 7 years, have you done a through hike? Some people say yes, some people say no. This is another example of a through hike. The Vermont Long Trail is actually the inspiration for the Appalachian Trail. A Vermont Long Trail through hike is called an end-to-end hike. It's 273 miles long. It's the oldest continuous footpath in the U.S. It actually shares 100 miles with the AT, so AT hikers are on the Long Trail for a little bit, and then they split off. And then it's common to do this through hike in the late summer. You want to do it after the black fly season because you will get bit up and eaten alive. The Triple Crown. So we mentioned earlier our friend is on the CDT, the Continental Divide Trail, which is this red trail in the middle. So we have the AT, the CDT, and the PCT. PCT is the Pacific Crest Trail. Doing all three of these constitutes a Triple Crown. They can be in any order at any time. Yeah, that's pretty much it about the Triple Crown. There's also like a calendar year Triple Crown, which just refers to doing it within a calendar year. The AT is the oldest. People kind of make fun of the AT for having small mountains, but that's just because they're old and they've had a lot of time to erode. They're still cool. Okay, so continuing back on the spectrum, what is like alpinism? If you want to go one step further from through hiking, mountaineering or alpinism refers to summiting mountains using a combination of climbing, backpacking, maybe some skiing. Generally, mountaineering and alpinism are terms that are used interchangeably. The Europeans like to say alpinism. The Americans use the term alpinism to refer to doing mountaineering trips really fast and carrying very light gear. Those are the first dudes that climbed Mount Everest, and they were carrying a lot of gear. Yeah, this is just a famous alpinist, Marc-Andre Leclerc, I think. Yeah. Great documentary about him on Netflix. Go watch it. It's very cool. Okay, so this is just a review of the spectrum. Yeah. This is something I like to joke about. When people say, all my life I thought that when people were saying that they're backpacking Europe, I thought that was like oh my goodness, they're going to be like living in the woods for like 6 months. That's not what they mean. Backpacking Europe is not the same thing as backpacking in Europe. So as long as we're all clear on that. These are some important terms for talking about. Did you want to do this one?
I can do it.
Okay, here.
Yeah. All right. So this is actually a little bit relevant to our trip this weekend, which is peak bagging. It's elevation versus elevation gain. Elevation is just the height above sea level. So like the mountains that we climb are around 4,000 to 6,000 feet. Up in the White Mountains versus like out west is 14,000. So there's a lot of difference between the East Coast and the West Coast. Elevation gain, sorry, refers to the change of elevation. So like while the peaks might sound really tall in the West, like 14,000 feet, wow, sounds like a lot. In reality, you're probably starting at like 8,000 feet. So the elevation gain is like only a couple thousand compared to the amount of gain that you're going to get out east. So it really doesn't matter. And then prominence is a peak's height relative to its surroundings. This is why if you ever go in the White Mountains and you stand on top of a peak that says it's above 4,000 feet and you're like, why isn't this a 4,000 footer? It's probably because of prominence or something else. Okay, so now we're going to get into what gear you need. These are the 10 essentials. This is just kind of like the bare bones of what you need on a backpacking trip. If you do anything with us, you don't really need all 10 of these because some of these you can just like borrow from other people. So, but if you want to start backpacking on your own, they're making fun of my Canadian accent. But if you want to start backpacking on your own, these are like the 10 things that you kind of need to have. Well, I think we talk about knives and
Yeah, we do talk about
knives are stupid. Okay. So this is kind of like what most people think of when they think of backpacking. This is the stuff that takes up the most space, kind of weighs the most. It's your backpack, your shelter, and your sleep system. This is like what you need to carry everything and what you sleep with. So important stuff. Backpacking paths. So your capacity of your pack is measured in liters, which is not the US volume. Whatever the size of the pack that you want depends on how long of a trip you're going on, and also how many days you're going to go in between resupplying. So in general, you can go 1 to 3 nights with a 30 to 50 liter pack, 3 to 5 with 50 to 80, or 5 plus with 70 liters. The ones in the gear locker are 50 to 45. This is a 60 something. That's my pack. There are a ton of features for packs. Some of them are kind of like completely unnecessary. I guess I'll start from the top. Internal frame is what I have. Yeah. So there's like a rigid structure in here that's inside the pack that like kind of, I don't know, gives you more support. There are also external frame packs which kind of look like this. This is the whip snake. That's kind of a meme video, so that's not a real backpack. No one uses external frame packs. I haven't seen anyone use them. They're actually in the gear locker though, but we're gonna throw those out. Yeah, we're getting rid of them pretty quick. And then frameless. Frameless is kind of like an ultralight option. There's like a specific sect of backpackers who are just like, I need to cut weight in every aspect, and that's kind of what frameless is. There's some ventilation options, like some like kind of keep the backpack off your back so that you can be ventilated. Mine doesn't really have that. Some have extra padding. Pockets are big, so if you look at mine, I have the hip pockets here, and then I also have this like attachable one to the shoulder, and then there's this outside pocket. I kind of wish mine was bigger, but there's a brain on some of them. Mine doesn't have it. It kind of like goes over top the backpack, and you can store stuff that you might want, like while you're on trail. Some of them have tool loops, so if you're doing like mountaineering and you want to bring like an ice axe or something, you can put it in there. Or some of them have like loops that you can put your sleeping pad on the outside, and that's cool. And then water bladders. I'm not a fan of water bladders, but if you want water bladder, you can have it in a backpack.
We can indoctrinate you away from them. That
Yeah.
would be better because they get stinky.
Stinky, and they break.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Don't put soda in your water.
Okay, so we're gonna go over sizing. There are men's and women's packs, and some of them you can kind of adjust the frame. I guess we'll go back to mine. You can't really adjust the frame, but what you can adjust is the hip belt. Like you can move it in. There's like some Velcro over here. The ones in the gear packer, you can adjust the frame. So just keep that in mind when you're trying it on. And they're also based on torso length, not height. So the way you measure that is you measure from the top of your hips, the iliac crest here, to your C7 vertebrae, which is the one that you can see when you like look down. I think it's this one.
I've got an extra one.
You got an extra one? No way.
Yeah.
This guy's a stegosaurus.
When I get fitted for packs, it's like weird.
Yeah. Speaking of getting fitted for packs, if you go to REI, the workers will fit and size you for free. So, yeah. Nearest one's in West Hartford, which is like 40 minutes out. So, hope you have a car. How should the pack fit? So the biggest thing when you're wearing a pack is you want most of the weight to be on your hips. If the weight's on your hips, then you're carrying the weight with your legs, which is way better than it just like dangling from your shoulders. But don't put all of it on your hips because then it's going to be hard to breathe. So once you tighten your hip belts, you want to tighten your shoulder straps. It says that you don't want you want the shoulder strap frame junction to sit 1 to 2 inches below the top of the shoulder. So what I mean by that is this is the junction here, and this is the top of the shoulder, so it's below. And then you don't really want a big gap between the pack and your back. The load lifters are these things. You should tighten those after you've finished tightening your hip belts and your shoulder straps. Yeah. And then the last strap that you should tighten is your sternum strap, which is right here. This is not like something that you should just like yank. It's just like a light thing. It's kind of really meant to pull your shoulder straps away from your armpits so that you're not like chafing. So yeah. And then, but the first time you try a pack on and you try and fit it, it's not going to feel good. So it's kind of just like a trial and error thing. As you're hiking, you're going to be fiddling with the straps. But just some general guidelines. If you feel pressure on your front shoulders, you can loosen the shoulder straps. And then if you feel pressure on the back shoulders, you can loosen the load lifters. So yeah.
I feel like nothing should ever be all the way tight.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so packing gear.
Do you want to pack that?
No, it's okay.
All right.
I don't think so. There's an image on the next slide. So there's two things that I consider when I'm packing my pack. It's the weight distribution and the ease of access. So weight distribution means two things. The heaviest items should go closest to the middle of your back, and the items should get lighter as it moves away from your back. It also means that you don't want to have too much weight on each side. So if you have like a big water bottle on one side and nothing on the other, it's going to feel horrible. It's going to feel unbalanced. So these are just things you need to think about. The other thing is ease of access. So if you have something that you might want to get while you're hiking, so like snacks, raincoat, first aid kit, you might want to put them somewhere where you can get it easily and not just like stuffed all the way down in your pack. So for example, I can put like snacks in the hip belt. I have like a camera in this pocket. On the outside pocket, I can put like a rain jacket or my water filter if I want to refill water. And then things like sleep system will go in the bottom of your pack, which is like the stuff that you're going to take out at the end of the day. Take advantage of outside pockets and loops. It could save a lot of space inside your pack. So if you have like a sleeping pad that's the accordion style foam pad, definitely strap that to the outside of your pack. And then keeping gear dry. Some packs will come with pack covers that will keep your gear dry. I'm not a fan of pack covers. They don't work. A big thing is that like the water will hit your pack cover and then slide into like the back of, you get what I'm saying? Like it'll hit the back and then slide into your back, and then you'll just get wet, and then the pack will get wet from your back being wet. If that makes sense. So what you can do instead is you can get these little like plastic things. I think they're called trash compactor bags. They're just like plastic, and you just put it in your bag, and then you put all the stuff that you want in your bag. and it won't get wet. Also, I use this too to put my sleeping bag in because it's waterproof. I'll get into why I do that later. This also is a dry sack, so if you want to if you have any valuables that you want to keep dry, you can put them in the dry sack. What's up?
If I don't feel the backpack to be full, will it be out of balance? Like, I only go on a 2 or 3 days hike, but I've got a 78 liters backpack, so I won't feel it full. Will it be out of balance?
With a 17-liter pack, I don't know if you could carry everything in a 17-liter pack.
17 or 70?
17.
Oh, 70? Oh, it won't feel full. If you're going for a couple nights, it won't feel full.
Yes, so will it be some problem if I don't?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I started a backpacking trip once with a 65-liter pack completely full, and then by the end of my trip, I had cut that down to about 40 liters.
Mhm.
So the top 20 liters were just empty. I was able to cinch it down so it really didn't feel like there was empty space there. As long as you have what's packed below secure and it's not gonna jostle around, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Then
Yeah.
I don't have to buy the 50 liter one. I just buy the 70 liter.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Julie's done.
No way. That's awesome.
So the 18
Yeah.
that we were talking about earlier has finished.
Woo! Let's go, Julie.
There are more seats if you guys want to move in.
Yeah. Julie's so cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Woo!
Okay, next slide.
Yep. Okay, so this is more what I was talking about with the weight distribution. The heaviest stuff should be closest to your back, and the lighter stuff should be further away. This is kind of what I was talking about with the brain, this kind of lid thing that goes over. It'll have a little zipper that you can put stuff in. So, thanks.
I had so my bag in kind of that orange area has an opening at the bottom as well in the orange area. So that's a common thing to have that opening on the bottom. That is another ease of access point. So I used to put some of my heaviest stuff, my food and my stove, there, so that when I got to camp, I could just open the bottom thing and do it that way.
Nice. Okay, so now we're going to get into shelters. So what kind of shelters are there? There's tents, hammocks, bivvies, and tarps. Each of them kind of have their pros and cons. So I guess we'll start with tents. There's 3 forms: non-freestanding, semi-freestanding, and freestanding tents. It's kind of hard to explain the difference between them. I guess the best way that I can think of is freestanding, you can set it up with no stakes and the entire floor plan will be maximized. So if you look here, the poles structure, it goes into each 4 corners. So if you didn't stake this out, it would still stand on its own just fine. A semi-freestanding is kind of like this, where it has the poles, but it might only have 3 contact points. So this stretched out part down here won't be stretched out and it might not stand very well. And then the non-freestanding is kind of a tent that you might set up with trekking poles or something that you need to stake out to get proper tension in order to keep it up. Next is hammocks. Hammocks can be lighter if they're in warmer weather, but it's also dependent on backpacking in an area with trees. But the flip side of that is that if you want to camp in a tent, you need space to set up a tent, you need even ground. If you're hammock camping, you just need trees anywhere. So, which is why I put useful if camping on an incline. Bivvies are kind of just this thing that you put over your sleeping bag. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. It's kind of just an outer shell for your sleep system.
Tent without walls.
Yeah. Austin has one. And then the other one is tarps. Tarps are again, this is an ultralight thing kind of where they literally just set up this tarp over where you're sleeping and then you just kind of plop down on the ground and I don't know. It seems a little silly because I feel like you just get attacked by by insects and animals. So
Yeah, I saw an Instagram post the other day of someone that uses a tarp, and they were camping on like somewhat of a decline, and it rained one night, so
Yeah.
all the water, they were just like, on water.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I was gonna say something about tents. Kind of an important thing. If you're looking to either borrow tents from someone or get a tent of your own, like we were talking about earlier, why is it important to know what backpacking refers to? Don't get a camping tent. They are heavy and they are big and they are not easy to carry with you. You want something that people like market as this tent is good for backpacking.
Unfortunately, the gear locker has like one of those. So, but we'll get better ones. Trust me. Yeah, well, USG. Okay, so this is a built shelter. So some campsites have these really cool things. They go by like a couple names: lean-tos, shelters. I don't know. There's kind of like these structures that you can go and put your sleeping bag and pad down, and then just go to bed. They're usually first time, first serve. Sometimes they cost money. Those are like usually the bigger huts. They'll like have people cook you dinner and stuff, which is really cool. But those are kind of expensive. You don't set up a tent in the thing. That's like really bad etiquette. Don't do that. Also, you have to deal with other people. So if you are like me, you snore a lot. Maybe don't set up in the shelter. So, and then other considerations with shelters being flat. It kind of goes back to what I talked about with the tent and the hammock. Bag liners. Bag liners. I think I meant to put that for sleeping bags.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Ignore that. Footprints and tree-safe hammocks. Footprints are kind of just these like sheet that we put under the tent to make sure that you don't damage the floor of the tent when you're sleeping in it. And then tree-safe hammock straps are just kind of like big straps that you use when you're hammocking to not destroy the trees that you're hammocking on.
Something else about shelters, I've found them to be a bit colder. There's like, it's missing a wall, so there's air moving into it. Usually there might be like mice and rats. And then something I think we mentioned last year that maybe we forgot. If the standard etiquette is that weekend hikers get priority in the lean-tos, which kind of stinks for thru hikers, but if a thru hiker's in there and a weekend hiker shows up, they have to give up their spot for the weekend hiker.
I would never do that. Also, I didn't say before, but don't rely on those being open. Bring a tent, just in case. Okay, so this brings us to the sleeping system. So the main thing that keeps you warm is your sleeping bag or your quilt. I guess I'll go over the difference now. This is a sleeping bag. You can zip it up, and it kind of just turns into like the mummy bag that most people have. Or you can get a quilt, which is just kind of like a blanket. That's a sleeping bag. That's kind of like another ultralight thing. People like it because it's lighter and it packs down a little smaller. So I tried a quilt this summer. I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty cool. Sleeping bags are filled with two types of material that will keep you warm. One is down and the other is synthetic. This is a down bag. We have down bags in the gear locker. We also have synthetic bags. Down is usually lighter, a little bit more packable, but it comes with a drawback that like you can't get it wet, can cause an allergic reaction, and is more expensive. The reason why you can't get it wet is because what keeps you warm is this thing called loft, which is just what it sounds like. It's loft. If you get down wet, it can't. No.
Okay.
No. But if you get down wet, it doesn't create any loft, and you don't stay warm. So that's important. Synthetic fibers are kind of like inferior in every way, to be honest, except for you can get them wet and they'll keep you warm. But they are getting better. So, and that brings us to ISO certification. So like right now, I don't think there's a standardized way really to rate a sleeping bag. Some companies are using ISO certifications, but not all of them. What an ISO certification is they kind of just test this dummy in your sleeping bag. that's wearing like base layers, socks, and a hat, and then it'll give you this comfort, limit, and extreme ratings. The comfort rating is like, this is the temperature where you're feeling warm. The limit is like, wow, I'm really cold, and then the extreme is like the last temperature where you'll survive. So, and the silly thing is that like you can kind of just advertise this temperature, like whatever temperature you want within the ISO certification temperatures. So on the next slide, we have one of our sleeping bags that we have in the gear locker. This is advertised as a 20-degree sleeping bag, but the limit rating is 20 degrees, which is like, you would be freezing cold if you went out in 20-degree weather, and that wouldn't be good. So don't trust the advertised temperature rating if you're buying sleeping bags. Look for the ISO stuff. So that brings us.
Based off of men.
Yes. So I think the ISO limit is like the lowest temperature that a warm sleeper. Are women warmer sleepers than men, or is it the other way around? I don't know. It's
based on like a 6 foot tall.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the lowest temperature that I don't know.
Look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
Look it up before buying a bag.
Yeah. Okay, so sleeping pads. There are a couple types of sleeping pads. They're like the foam accordion style ones. Those are the ones that we mainly have in the gear locker. Those ones are pretty light, but their R value or their insulation isn't very great. There's also like these self-inflating sleeping pads. I don't really recommend that, but if you do have it, like, bring it. We're gonna get into this way at the end, but the gear that you have is the best gear that you can use. Like, don't just go out and buy $400 sleeping pads just because, you know, it has a high R value or something. Bring what you want. But self-inflating sleeping pads are kind of big and heavy, so that's why I don't like bringing them. The other one is these ones that you actually inflate on your own. If you guys came here early, you saw me use my little pump thing to inflate it. I really like this thing. It's super comfortable. I think it's more comfortable than the foam pads. Connor might disagree, but... so the insulation, oh my God. The insulation ability of the sleeping pad is measured in an R value. So the greater the R value, the better it insulates. So if you want something for summer, you don't really need a very high R value. Something like 1 to 2 should be fine. If you're going to do like spring or winter or spring or fall, you probably want something maybe more like 4. And then if you're going in winter, probably something more like 6 would be a good R value. And then for hammocks, you can use underquilts in place of a sleeping pad. Or you can actually just use a sleeping pad in there. But underquilts are probably more comfortable and it'll cover more of the hammock and keep you warmer. I should go over why you need a sleeping pad. A sleeping pad is not just because you're uncomfortable on the hard ground. It's because when you sleep on the sleeping bag, you crush the insulation. It doesn't have any loft. It can't keep you warm. So you need some material that'll keep you warm from the ground. And that's what the sleeping pad is for. So some other stuff that you can have in your sleep system. You can have pillows. I have like a pretty nice pillow. You can just grab like a stuff sack like this and then just put like a puffy jacket in it and use it as a pillow if you want. I bring an extra change of clothes to sleep in. Anything that you have that's a battery should be put in your bag and slept with. So if you have your phone, if you have like a battery bank like this and it's cold out, you should definitely have that in your sleeping bag. And the same thing goes for water filters. If it's freezing out and you have a water filter like this, one that you like push water through, and it goes below freezing, the water inside the filter will freeze and then expand, and then it will just ruin the filter, and that's not good. So if you have a water filter, you need to keep it above freezing.
Okay, so navigation. Navigation was one of the 10 essentials that we were talking about. People have always said, make sure you bring a paper map with you. I'm not going to tell you not to bring a paper map. You just might not use it. I use and a lot of people use an app that used to be called GutHook, is now called Far Out. It's great. It's a GPS navigation app that can be used while you're on airplane mode. You download all these maps. The app itself is free, and then you buy the trails that you're going to be hiking. Some of the trails are actually free as well. It will show you things like campsites, water sources, places where you can get picked up, like road crossings. It'll tell you about upcoming views, and more. And the and more just means that everything you click on, all these little bubbles, like, so this is a water source. If I clicked on this water source, there could be comments from other hikers that you can see even if you're on airplane mode, that are updated, I think, like weekly or something. But stuff, important information like, hey, this water source is dry. Don't stop here, or don't count on getting your water here, which can be great. Sometimes at road crossings, which are these like black symbols with the letter P, people will like leave their phone number and be like, hey, if you need a ride to the grocery store, this is my phone number. And then a feature of this app that I really like is that if I'm at a water source and I want to know how much water to fill up with, you can see when the next water source is going to be. So if you are at the water source and you're looking to fill up and you see that the next water source is going to be in 4 miles, you don't really need to fill up all of your containers because water's the heaviest thing you can carry. That's not necessarily true. Water's really heavy though. You might just want to fill up as much as you need to get to the next water source. So I love this app. It's better than All Trails. All Trails sucks. Don't use All Trails. The reason it's better than All Trails is because All Trails is crowdsourced, so anyone could put it's like Wikipedia. Anyone could put anything they want on there, and it might not be accurate. There might be holes in it. Like, it's just doesn't have the features that GutHook has.
Far Out won't have every trail, though. It only has some popular trails, so it'll have like all of the White Mountains trails that we usually go on. It has like the Appalachian Trail, but like the local Yukon trails, they don't have the Nipmuc trails. They don't have. So I guess you could use All Trails for those if you really wanted to. I use Gaia GPS. I don't know why. I just kind of use it because my dad uses it. So yeah. Must be good.
Gaia has more Canadian hikers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
why?
My dad's Canadian. Okay. You?
No, switch seats.
Oh, okay. So this goes into some emergency GPS devices stuff. There's two big ones. There's the PLB, or personal locator beacons, and the satellite messengers. The PLBs are like these big things. I think this is one of them. I'm not really sure, but they're pretty big. But the big thing about these is all they do is send like a signal to emergency services, and it's a little bit nicer than the satellite messengers because you don't really need this super clear, unobstructed view of the sky to get the message out. Satellite messengers are like these things. This is a Zoleo. A lot of people have the Garmin InReach Mini, this thing up here. What these allow you to do is they can send the emergency signal, but they can also like send text messages out. So if you have like, loved ones at home that you want to communicate with, this is a good option for that. There's 2-way and 1-way. 1-way just means that you can send one way, so you can send it to the person that you're sending it to. And then 2 ways, you can receive messages as well. These do have subscriptions though, so that kind of sucks. And they also have smaller battery life, and you need a clear view of the sky. I think the new iPhones actually have satellite calling ability.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that good, to be honest.
As soon as they announced that, Garmin was like, "Oh, now we're gonna make like an insane product."
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Can I say something about
Yeah.
InReach?
So, I have an InReach, this orange product, and what I do before I go out, it lets you just type a message. I have a message that goes to my mother that says, like, this is my location, everything's okay, love you, good night. And when I turn on the inReach, I can just like press a button and it sends that to her. I can't change the message. So if everything's not okay, I can't say that. But it just sends her my location. It allows you to do that. That's the one way. If she texts me back, it becomes two-way and they start charging you for that. So that kind of gets into the subscription you have.
Okay, first aid kits. So sometimes there's like these pre-made first aid kits that you can get at like REI. Don't get these, to be honest. I don't know why I bought them. You can kind of just make your own first aid kit, and it's way better. These are some things that you can bring. I won't go over all of them just because that will take forever. But some important things that I think we should go over is moleskin is like kind of the best. It's like this tape that you can just put on your feet or wherever there's a hot spot. So if you feel like a blister forming, you just slap this stuff over it and you won't get a blister. It's awesome. Sharpies for
I keep
tourniquets.
In my, for tourniquets.
Yeah.
And then like keeping track of I don't know bites.
I don't know.
Make sure it doesn't get any bigger.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Emergency blanket is cool. Insect repellent. If you're gonna bring insect repellent doesn't work on ticks. I wanted to bring that up. Ticks are arachnids, not insects. Fun fact.
You're gonna need permethrin.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to read how to use it. It's a product that you like want to keep away from like dogs, and you like don't want to do it inside. You need like a ventilated space.
Oh, we sprayed ours in the basement.
Nice.
So, headlamps. I just got a new one that I really, really like. I didn't bring it though. We have the same headlamp. It's really good. But these are really important, even if you don't expect to be hiking in the dark. We had a couple people on Washington last year who I bet they didn't expect to be hiking in the dark, and they were coming down in the dark. So bring headlamps, even if you don't expect it. They're pretty useful in search and rescue scenarios. So some of them have like strobe lighting that you can turn on. So if people are trying to find you and you have that on, it's way easier. And then these have the red light. Some of them have red lights that you can turn on. This does two things. It doesn't disturb like your iris opening and closing or something like that. So like you'll still have night vision when you go back into your tent. And it's less blinding to other people. So if you're walking around a campsite and your light is shining through people's tents and it's white light, it's going to wake people up. It's going to annoy people. If you have red light, it won't do any of that.
I would almost say don't bother getting a headlamp unless it has red light.
True. Trekking poles. Okay. Some people like trekking poles. Other people don't. I really, really like trekking poles. So how to hold a trekking pole. This sounds really dumb, but it's kind of important. What you want to do is you want to take the strap. This is getting really complicated. Sure. I don't know. You want to hold this? I don't know. Okay. So you're going to want to... Is this working?
Yeah.
You're going to want to go underneath the strap like this and then grab the pole. The reason why you want to do this is because if you trip and fall and you let go of the trekking pole, your hand goes like this. If you do it the other way around and you let go of the trekking pole, it stays like this, and then your hand will hit the ground and you'll break your thumb, and that's not good. For how tall they should be, your arm should be making like a 90-degree angle. And then you might want to shorten it if you're going uphill and lengthen it if you're going downhill. It'll make it a lot easier. I think I can hold this now. When you're actually hiking it, or when you're actually hiking and using it, you kind of want to put it in at an angle, and you want to like insert it into the ground behind you. You don't want it out in front of you, because now you have like no leverage. You definitely don't want to stick it in like this, because now you're pushing against where you're hiking. Unless you're going downhill, then you might want to do that. So when might you not want to use it? If your upper body is really tired, you might not want to use the trekking poles. And then another case is if you're going uphill or downhill on like really steep sections, it might just be easier to just use your hands and just climb up it. Yeah.
Is there anything about boots in there? The trekking pole boots?
I don't think
the Appalachian Trail Conservancy recommends using something called boots that you put on the end of your poles. Can I see the poles? If you noticed, they have these points that are flint, or they're some material that like breaks really finely, really pointy. When everyone goes out on the trail using this, it kind of rips up the sides of the trail. So the Trail Conservancy is trying to get people to use boots, which are just like rubber stoppers that slip on. They can come on and off whenever you need them. So consider having those if you get trekking poles.
Yeah. Okay. When will I need my phone and how will I charge it? Assuming that no one knows how to use a map, which I think is pretty much everyone. I know I don't. You're going to need your phone. They're pretty useful for navigation and obviously talking to people. And you also want to take photos. So having a charged phone is pretty important. Most people will use something like this, which is just like a little battery bank. These things are kind of heavy, but if you need your phone, like, you know, what else are you going to do? This is kind of what a lot of people bring. Some people have like solar panel chargers. I don't do that. I mean, you could, but like, don't. Yeah. Don't do that. And then just a reminder that you need to put these in your sleeping bag if it's cold, or else there'll be battery loss. Also, make sure your cables work. I went out and the cables didn't work one day, and that was kind of scary.
I included this picture. That's a picture of me. It was so cold that night. We were trying to figure out like what was safe for us to hike. That's a picture of me using my phone, trying to determine how far away we were from town and when we were getting to town. It's the only spot for like 5 miles that had 1 bar of service. You will get service on the AT. It might just be 1 bar. And you might need it to like arrange rides and pickups and stuff like that.
I was kind of in a similar scenario this summer. I was trying to find this like campsite that people like didn't really use. This campsite, like, it used to be a campsite and then they just stopped maintaining it, so it wasn't really marked anywhere, and I couldn't find this thing, so I had to like look up a YouTube video on trail and of this guy who hiked the same trail, and then I just like followed where he went and I found it. So pretty important. So then we were gonna go over a knife. We kind of don't really like knives. Yeah. We kind of find that like you don't really use knives. I feel like I've used knives once.
Yeah, I've only ever used knives at the post office for opening a package.
Yeah. You can bring, these are the things that we bring. These like little tiny Swiss Army knife things that kind of just attach to your keychain. It has like a knife, and then it also has scissors and like a nail filer and a screwdriver and like toothpick and stuff. Yeah. And you'll probably use those other tools more often than you'll actually use the knife. So yeah.
Something kind of interesting to consider, though, which will probably be covered in the Women in the Wild talk eventually, is whether or not this is privileged thinking, because some people go out and they think that they need a knife to protect themselves either from animals or other people. I personally have the ability to go out without really worrying about that. There are other people in different situations, so certainly a conversation to be had. In my experience, I used the nail file on my knife way more and the tweezers on my knife way more, and I only used it at the post office.
Okay. Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah. So, kind of going along the same lines, do I need something, if not a knife, to protect myself from other people? The answer is probably not. Again, this might be some privileged thinking. I didn't bring anything out. That's me. I know that there are people who travel with pocket-sized pepper sprays, which are really nice, but definitely not something that you're gonna like brandish and like let other people see and like try to be a threat, because ironically, those who seek to protect themselves from other hikers often end up becoming perceived as the threat. If you show up at camp and you're holding a big knife and you're like, this is to protect myself from you guys, the people at the camp will not want to eat dinner with you because they're going to think that you're going to attack them. So maybe pepper spray. That's definitely for you guys to decide. It's your own personal safety. I don't bring anything, but I could one day maybe. Oh, and then a note about pepper spray. If you bring pepper spray, you're going to have to keep it with your smellables in your bear hang, which is something we'll talk about later.
Oh, this carried a lot more weight when Alana was here. Yeah. Let's just do that.
In this conversation, there's another UCOC talk
Whoa.
about women in the wild.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like two guys shouldn't be
yeah.
telling women how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
That feels a little weird. Okay. Do I need something to protect myself from wild? Yeah. Bear spray sucks. A lot of people buy bear spray. A lot of people don't use bear spray. Don't get bear spray unless you're gonna go out west. Then maybe you might need it. But in general, you don't need it here because black bears are kind of pussies. So.
Yeah, they're way more scared of us than we are of them. It's sufficient to protect yourself from wildlife to just make sure your food and your smellables are stored properly, and then when you're hiking, make some noise. As soon as they hear you, they'll run away. Which I think is the next slide about.
The bear bells. Don't get that. Don't get it. Don't get it.
These are bad.
Boo.
So annoying.
Get it off the screen.
Yeah, these are so annoying. There was one time I was hiking and I was like leapfrogging. I was leapfrogging with this family of like 5, and they made all of their kids wear bear bells. It was so annoying. I might as well have been at like the mall. Like it was so, I didn't feel like I was in nature at all. So kind of like we were just saying, make some noise. I carry a lifeguard whistle with me, which can be used to scare away wildlife, but if you keep it in the right place on your backpack, can also be used to call for help if you've broken both your legs. Yeah, some backpacks have a whistle built into the sternum strap. A lifeguard whistle with a cork ball, specifically with a cork ball, will be louder. The cork ball makes it louder. What was I going to say? Oh, the last point is important. Wildlife is different everywhere you go. There are some intelligent wildlife on this side of the country. There are some really ferocious, less intelligent wildlife on the other side of the country. It depends. Do some reading before you go.
Where do I get food and how do I cook?
That you were wondering.
So food is pretty important. You kind of need calories to live. You also need water to live. So it's important that you get that stuff. Rule of thumb, best food to carry is 100 calories per ounce. You don't want to be carrying like these big, super weighty food that won't give you a ton of calories. So like fruits are kind of off the table, to be honest. You can bring them. Dehydrated food is really good, or dehydrated fruit is really good. But I wouldn't recommend bringing a ton of apples on trail or anything. Also, hang your food. It's really important to protect yourself and the bears. So yeah.
Olive oil is a really good food. To carry, there's so many calories in olive oil.
You can just dump that on anything too, and it'll taste better.
Dump that in ramen, make like an 1,800 calorie meal. Yeah.
So these are some examples of breakfast. I really like oatmeal and Pop-Tarts. Those are pretty good. Sometimes I have coffee and tea in the morning. I like tea a little bit more just because it tastes better than the powdered coffee that you can get. That stuff kind of sucks. You can also get freeze-dried meals, but those are like really expensive. But they can taste pretty good, and they have a lot more nutrition than the other options. So.
When you bring tea out, are you carrying tea bags?
Yeah.
Oof.
What do you mean, oof? They don't weigh that much.
They get wet and then they weigh more.
Yeah, whatever.
Right.
Throw them on the side of the trail.
You're allowed to make weight decisions based on your preference.
Yeah. Here's some options for lunch. A lot of people are big fans of tuna packets. I don't like tuna, so. But if you like tuna, it's a really good option. Ton of protein. Some things that I'll do is I'll take a tortilla and I'll put some peanut butter on it. The dining hall will have like little tiny Jif peanut butter things that you can just like spread on your tortilla. Dried fruit is good. Pepperoni is really good. I bring a lot of pepperoni. What?
Nuts.
Nuts are really good. A lot of protein, a lot of calories. Ramen. You can eat ramen raw. That's what Julie does. Yeah. And then this is some dinner options. Ramen again, more chicken and tuna packets. The Nor sides are really good. The pasta sides kind of like make your pot really dirty, from what I've heard. I've never actually had any of this. I like the rice sides too. Instant mashed potatoes I'm a big fan of. You can make instant mashed potatoes and then bring like a bag of bacon bits and dump it in there, and that's really good.
They're not lactose free.
They're not lactose free. I didn't know that. You would know that.
I found out.
You found out?
Yeah.
Nice.
Get creative with your dinner. You don't have to go and drop a bag on these dehydrated meals. A lot of people, their first time going out, you can if you want.
Yeah.
You have the money to go do that. By all means, go get something that's gonna taste good. But like, you don't have to. You can get these Nor sides are like $1 each.
Yeah. I've considered just eating those normally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the semester.
Yeah.
Oh, and then a little treat. That's
Oh.
an important point. Don't like make yourself miserable on trail.
Mhm.
Like I think most people bring like one king-sized Snickers for each night to have before they put their stuff away. You know, give yourself
I
brought 2 on Shenny.
give yourself some treats. Or like Jack was saying, he likes tea. I wouldn't carry tea, but Jack likes tea, so that's important to him.
Okay. So now we get into cooking food. There's kind of 2 main ways to cook food. Stove cooking is kind of what you think of normally. You just kind of have like this little fuel canister down here. You'll attach something to it. This is a pocket rocket. This is this fancy thing called a jet boil. Basically what just happens is they just ignite the gas and it boils water, and then you dump whatever powder, whatever you're cooking into the water, and it'll cook it for you. This can get pretty heavy. Like you can see the jet boil, that thing's kind of massive. So that's kind of the downside to it. But the upside is you get way better tasting food than cold soaking. Cold soaking is just kind of like you just put cold water in your food and then let it soak. It is insane. Some people will like soak it and then put it like in their pack here, and the body warmth will like kind of heat it up. But I don't think it's very good.
Also, people who are cold soaking usually exclusively eat ramen for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want. Like if you want to be miserable, go for it.
It does save weight.
It definitely saves weight. Unless you're carrying a ton of water, but
Okay.
bear hangs.
Do you want to do bear?
I can do bear hangs. All right. Explaining bear hangs is kind of hard without actually doing a bear hang and showing you guys how it works. Should I like try to explain the mechanism of the bear hang, or just explain why it's important?
I think there's a video linked on the presentation. Which
Do we want to watch? We didn't watch last year.
Sure.
We can watch. I think we're going pretty quick. You got to go out, maybe? Oh, nice.
Wow, this is a video.
It's important that we hang our food using the PCT method because the bears have figured out how to defeat the traditional food hanging methods. My first tip for hanging your food bag is that you make sure you do this first thing when you get to camp. If you're anything like me, you'll realize that if you set up your tent first, you go looking for a good tree to hang your food from, and you'll realize that the only good tree in the campsite was the one that's right above your tent. Save yourself some effort. Just make sure that you hang your line over the branch first thing before you get into anything else. Now, it's important to note that our food bag needs to be 12 feet off the ground, but our branch should be much taller than that. So let's aim for a branch that's 20 to 25 feet off the ground. We also want to make sure that the bears can't reach our food from the trunk of the tree if they're climbing along that. So we want to make sure that our food is at least 6 feet out from the trunk of the tree too. So we're aiming for a branch that's 20 to 25 feet off the ground and at least sturdy enough to hold our food a solid 6 feet out from the trunk of the tree. You're going to need about 50 feet of paracord, a carabiner, and a rock sack to make that work. So take aim for the branch, make sure you're not tangled up in anything, and just give it a good throw. I recommend you don't hold on to the line as you're tossing it over, because it's my experience that if there's tension on there, The weighted end has a tendency to whip around. It might wrap itself around along that branch and it won't come back down. I like to leave that on the ground, then I set up my tent. That kind of designates this as the food area. Hopefully other hikers will understand that this is where someone's storing their food, and they'll set up away from there too. Once you set up your tent, cook your dinner, eat your dinner, do your dishes, brush your teeth, and finish washing up, we want to gather up all our food and all our trash because a Snickers wrapper smells like chocolate, same as a Snickers bar. We're going to gather our soap, toothpaste, sunscreen, lip balm, wet wipes, any sort of smellables you have on you, food-related or otherwise, factory-sealed or otherwise, because the bears have a great sense of smell, and they've learned to associate a lot of those smells with our camp. Anything with a smell to it. I think just about the only thing you don't need to hang up is maybe your dirty socks, but anything with a smell to it, please make sure that you're putting it in your food bag. We don't want the bears going to your tent looking for that stuff. Once you have all that gathered up together, go ahead and hang it from the end of your paracord. I'm just going to show you real quick what the traditional method of hanging your food looks like so we can point out why it's not necessarily a good idea out here. Normally at this point you would pull it up into the tree, still making sure it's a solid 12 feet off the ground, 4 feet down from the branch and 6 feet out, and then you would tie it off around the trunk of the tree. The problem with this technique is we have 4,500 thru hikers hitting the trail every year. That's a lot of lessons. The bears watch us in the morning as we untie that knot to make the food come down, and after watching 4,500 thru hikers do that year after year after year, they've realized all they have to do is come over to that same knot, slashing it a bit. They're no good with knots, but their claws get the job done, so they just sever that, they get a free meal out of us. So what we're gonna do instead, it's called the PCT method. The only extra tool you need is a stick. There's plenty of them out there on the trail. Don't worry if you don't have one yet. What we're gonna do with the PCT method is we're gonna take the free end of the paracord, and we're gonna run it through the carabiner. No knots, no loops, it just has to slide through freely. At this point, I like to pull my food bag to the very top of that 20 to 25 foot tall branch. If you've tried to haul a full food bag or maybe a couple food bags to the top of the branch, you might have noticed that the line tends to dig into your hand a bit. I see some nodding over there. Something I found helps me out. I just use a stick as a sort of handle. Wrap the cord around there a few times, and it's gonna make it a lot easier to pull that to the top of the branch without that digging into your hand. Once you get it to the top of that 20 to 25 foot tall branch, you're gonna go ahead and remove the stick, and then place yourself directly underneath the food bag. Once you get yourself directly underneath, you just need to tie the stick across the line so that it goes across it perpendicular like that. Use whatever knot you like if you have a good one. I know the clove hitch is really popular. Personally, I'm partial to the marlin spike. It's easier for me to do while I'm supporting the weight of the food bag, and it's also easier for me to release when it comes time to bring my food down in the morning. Just make a simple loop, pass that bit of cord through the loop, and pop the stick right in the middle. Take a step back when you release tension from the line, and the stick will go directly towards the carabiner rather than getting tangled up in the line. At this point, the free end of the paracord can just hang loose, and it's fine. If a bear swats at this or chews through this or claws at it all day and all night long, it's not going to bring the food down. The food is going to be secure up there. If you're working with a 20 to 25 foot tall branch, you make sure to bring that food bag all the way to the top, and then you tie that stick off overhead. That's going to leave the food suspended a solid.
I like this video a lot. He does a really good job of explaining how it works. That is a very easy video to find. Just look up how to do a bear hang. So I kind of need to read what's already been covered. These are kind of some instructions on how to do it. That guy explained it really well. Like I said, it's kind of hard to understand what it does without really seeing it. What's the next slide? Okay, so some alternative to bear hangs are bear canisters, which is this blue container here, bear sacks. I don't really know if that is a good idea. Bear boxes, sometimes they are structures found at lean-tos at those shelters that we were talking about earlier. Don't count on those being there. Also don't count on those being open. Since COVID, some of the shelters have put locks on them and they won't let people use them. So maybe use gut hook to find to see if they have that open. There's also sometimes people have cables set up at lean-tos, which is just the same thing as a bear hang, but just always set up. It's a permanent fixture. The PCT bear hang is really the best. If anyone here used to be a Boy Scout and they taught you the method of wrapping it around a tree, forget that. Also, bear canisters are kind of irrelevant now. They're heavy, they're big, and they're bulky, and bears have figured out how to open them, so they don't really work anymore. But like probably one of the biggest takeaways from Intro to Backpacking is to protect your smellables. You're not just protecting yourself and other hikers, you're protecting the wildlife. And kind of the vibe on the trail is that protecting the wildlife is more important. There was a bear in Great Smoky Mountains National Park that for like 8 years the park knew about, but was not a problem bear, was totally fine. And then like one day it got into someone's food, or like just a wrapper that was left at a campsite, and within a week it was what's called habituated, which means that they learn that humans trash is a source of food. And when a bear is habituated, it's game over for the bear. Within a week, the bear got habituated, climbed into a dumpster in a parking lot to get some KFC, and then got carried away in the dumpster by the garbage truck. Its bones got all broken. The bear survived, and it had to be taken to a hospital 400 miles away. It lived, but like, what's the bear's quality of life after that? It's just crazy. Bears have a 2-strike system. People get 3 strikes, bears get 2. The first time that a bear gets into someone's food, they just tag it and they make note, hey, this bear knows about people and they know about food. The second time, the bear is the first time they might just tag it, they might relocate it. They have to relocate it somewhere like at least 100 miles away. The bear's chance of surviving when it's relocated is like 10%, so they're probably going to die. And then the second strike, the bear's going to die. They will send hunters out and they'll kill the bear. So now you can understand why hikers are so concerned about not only protecting themselves, but protecting these bears. Resupplying a town. You want me to do this? You want to do this? Okay. So the rule of thumb on the Appalachian Trail is that there's a town every 3 to 5 days. I don't really have experience with the CDT or the PCT, so I can't really say. It seems to me that it's about 5 to 8 days on those 2 trails. Definitely look it up if you're planning a backpacking trip, kind of do some poking around. On the AT though, in every town in the South, there's going to be a Dollar General with all of that stuff that we were showing before, ramen, tuna creation, stuff like that. It says right here, PCT approximately every 10 days, carry more food. Yeah, trails vary. Plan accordingly. I don't know what else I had to say on that. Get drinkable water? Okay. Don't drink unfiltered water. Basically, all the surface water on Earth now is contaminated with something, unless you're in somewhere very remote that I doubt any of you will ever go. So definitely don't drink unfiltered water. A lot of people have these Sawyers. These are so common that instead of saying water filter now, people just say Sawyer, even if it's not a Sawyer product. Most won't eliminate viruses, but that's not usually a problem in the US.
There's a difference between water filter and a purifier. A purifier will get rid of viruses. A filter won't. I don't think there's any water viruses in the United States, which is why it's not a problem. But if you do any backpacking overseas, it will be a problem. You might want a water purifier. And then there are some other options to water filters. There's chemical treatments, which is like iodine, and there's something else. I think it's chlorine that also does it. These are nice in the winter because you don't have to carry around the filter and make sure that it stays warm. But some of them don't taste very well, so you might want to bring Mio. And then some of them don't kill certain pathogens like cryptosporidium. So it's important. There's also UV radiation, which is just like a stick you put in your water for some amount of time and it should kill everything. Or you could boil it, which is boil for a minute or 3 minutes if you're above 30 or 6,500 feet. Yeah. If you're like in winter and you're boiling snow, that's probably the best way to do it.
I was thinking something. Oh, on the PCT in the Arizona Trail, it's common that your water source is like a horse trough, believe it or not, or like a cow trough, or just like a puddle on a rock. So water filtration varies. On the AT, it's like pretty much fine to just use a Sawyer, but on the PCT, people are doing like whatever they can to make their water not taste like cow poop. If it tastes like cow poop, it's okay. Some people say that the tastes, you just get used to it. The taste won't kill you. The things that are associated with the taste are what you want to filter out.
Mio. Yeah, I love Mio. Okay, so what are you gonna wear on your hike? Cotton. No, don't wear cotton.
Second biggest takeaway. Cotton kills.
Cotton sucks. Okay, so why does it suck? Cotton is bad because it absorbs moisture and it doesn't dry very quick. So this is pretty bad, number one, because your shirt gets all heavy and it's really annoying. But more importantly, because a wet shirt means that you can get cold really, really quick. So yeah, other materials like wool and synthetics are much better because they dry a lot quicker and they wick moisture away from your skin, so you won't cool as quick. We sell synthetic t-shirts, so if you want one.
Are we gonna bring merch?
TBD. And that gets into a layering system. So for the most part, a layering system is kind of more of like a winter fall thing. In the summer, you kind of really just need a base layer and like a rain jacket. But if you're going to go out into colder conditions, you want a base layer that's going to wick the moisture away from your skin. This is like a wool or synthetic shirt or something like that. You're going to want a mid layer that'll keep you warm. This could be like a fleece or a puffy jacket, something like that. And then an outer layer that protects from wind and rain. That's a raincoat. Some people also wear rain pants. Some people have like gloves that are like rain gloves, just like a piece of plastic that cover their hands. Yeah. So that's kind of the most important thing. Also, important thing about layering, if you're out in really cold weather, it's important that you don't sweat, because if you sweat, you get moisture all over your body, which means you cool off really quick. So once you stop hiking, you're going to be really, really cold, and you might get hypothermia, which is not good. So a layering system basically means that you can just like take off a layer if you get too hot, and you can keep hiking. So, yeah.
Humans can die from hypothermia when the ambient temperature is like 65 degrees. So,
yeah.
Scary.
Also might want a clean and dry set of clothes for camp. This is what I do. Especially when you go to bed, it feels really nice to get your like sweaty clothes off and get into clean clothes. I only bring my hiking clothes and a dry set for camp. I don't bring any other clothing. Just, it's gross, but like everyone else does. You'll be fine. Oh, I was going to say socks. I bring extra socks just in case they get wet. Take care of your feet, which kind of brings us into the next one. Trail runners or boots. I like trail runners a lot. They're kind of more like sneakers. They don't have a lot of ankle support, which I kind of like. They're a lot lighter, which I also like. And
what? Do we have anything about? Yeah, I kind of want to talk about it.
Okay. So I prefer trail runners, but a lot of people like boots for the ankle support. It's kind of like the more like classic choice, I guess. But what I will say is there's a saying that's like a pound on your feet is like 5 pounds on your back or something like that. Basically, like you move your feet a lot, having a heavy shoe on your foot won't work very well. Yeah. And then blisters are really important. I carry moleskin, which is what I talked about in the first aid kit, that you slap on your blisters and you won't get them. Also, break in your shoes. Try and wear them around the house. Go on a little walk to break them in. Get them wet. That'll help. Super important. Blisters suck. They can also get infected, which isn't good. Waterproof shoes. I'm not a fan of waterproof shoes, mostly because, number one, if you get water in your shoes, if it's raining and it goes down your leg and it gets in your shoe, or you step in a puddle and it goes into your shoe, you won't be able to get the water out. So the waterproofing works both ways. Also, it's probably like really insulated if it's waterproof, which means your foot is going to sweat a lot, which means your foot's just going to get wet anyways. The only exception to like waterproof boots really is if you're going to do something like winter. That's the only time I think I would bring waterproof boots.
Yeah, the common thought is that your feet are just going to get wet either way, either from sweat that you're trapping on the inside or the elements outside. It's actually better for the trail if you don't like hop around and try to avoid puddles. Just accept the fact that your feet are going to get wet and go through them. If you're wearing trail runners, they dry fairly quickly. So you could walk like a mile and they could be dry already.
And then some people also have camp shoes, which is just kind of like a little comfy pair of shoes that people wear. Some people bring Crocs. I don't usually bring them, but a lot of people swear by them. So where can you find gear? So I think the biggest takeaway here is the last point, which is the best gear is the stuff you already have. Don't feel like you need to buy gear just because like, you know, oh, this might be heavy or this might be pretty bulky. Use the gear that you have. A lot of this stuff can get really expensive. So just keep that in mind. REI, used gear is really great. You can go to REI and go to the resupply section, which is good too. That's actually where I got my headlamp, which is pretty awesome. Facebook Marketplace is a lot of cool stuff. College Outside. College Outside went out of business, so actually you can't use that. And then used gear, which doesn't exist. I don't know. Maybe. Do you want to?
Sure. Okay, so I think this is still working. Planning ahead kind of just means, oh wow, we really got really into detail. Planning ahead just kind of means like considering all the things that we're talking about now, doing adequate research, know where you're going, know how to get to the trailhead, know what to expect when you get to the trailhead. Maybe the trailhead's only big enough for like 2 cars to park and you might have to park down the road, and don't be surprised if your car gets towed if you park in the wrong spot. Know the trail markings that you're looking for, have the essentials that you need. If you need to get permits, get those permits. Smoky Mountains, you need a permit. Baxter State Park, you also need a permit. No, you don't need a permit for Baxter, but they have like a season and you can't go after October 10th. Plan for your pace.
This is a really slow pace, to be honest.
Yeah.
Most of you.
Whoa, actually a mile an hour. All right, I won't say anything about it.
You think people hike slower than a mile?
No. I'm saying that if you're going a mile an hour, you might want to like stop and like reconsider what you're doing.
Go hit the Stairmaster?
No, not that. Like if you're going a mile an hour, it might mean that you're like really uncomfortable or like carrying way too much stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. Planning ahead. Let people know where you're going. Sometimes I leave like a little sticky note in my dashboard in the car. Connor Caredad, I left on Saturday at noon. Yeah. Or I'll tell my mom I'm going hiking. I should be back around 3. Know your bailout trails. That's super important. That just means like if you're going on this 50-mile hike and there's like side trails, know which ones you can use to get off and get back to town if you get hurt, if you need help or whatever. Know when your last bailout trail is going to be, because you don't want to pass that point. Know how to get to a hospital if you have your phone. There are usually little journals in shelters. It's a good idea to sign those, help people keep track of you. Your phone might have SOS mode, and then consider the Garmin products or whatever if you're going to do something bigger. Leave no trace.
Should we speed run this?
Yeah, we can speed run this. These are the principles. Please familiarize yourself with these. Throwback. Yeah, we kind of touched on some of these already. Planning. Don't go off the trail. Pack in, pack out. Leave stuff in the woods. Probably don't have a fire. Be nice to animals and be considerate of other people. They're also animals. So, whoa.
Whoa.
I'm so confused as what just happened. I think that those were the.
Just leave no trace.
Oh, okay. Those were details about like what each of those things mean. Life on the trail. Life on the trail is really nice because you could just rise and grind. You're just walking around. That's all you're doing. So you kind of get up, you eat your Pop-Tart, you get going. You might stop for lunch on like a comfy rock that you find and eat your granola or whatever. You stop to get some water and do some math on how much water you need. You should probably figure out where you're going to sleep. If you're hiking with other people, if you meet other people, you can really just say to them in the morning, I'll see you at the next camp in 20 miles, and then they go do their thing and you go do your thing. Whoa.
Uh-oh. No, don't do that.
We could extend for 30 minutes. Okay. Where do I go to the bathroom? We didn't even talk about that at all. Cat holes. Privies and cat holes. Privies are bathrooms that they build out at the shelters. Look those up or read the directions at the privy. Moldering privies use leaves to like decompost your shit. And then otherwise, you're going to have to go a little bit off trail and dig a hole the size of a soda can, and that's where you poop. You'll bring some toilet paper with you. You don't need a full roll. I would just go into gas stations like every couple of days and just like take a bunch. And then also these wonderful poop shovels. I don't know if you can see that through the bag. That just makes it easier to dig the hole. You don't need a poop shovel, but they are like fun Christmas gifts. You could just dig a cat hole, the soda can hole, with a trekking pole. And then that's what you'll shit in. You'll be surprised at like how good your aim is. You might think your aim is really bad, but you're probably better than you think at it. You can leave your toilet paper. The Leave No Trace organization says it's actually better for the decomposition of your poop if you leave the toilet paper with it. It's kind of like food for the shit that's going to be eating your shit. So
no wet wipes though.
No wet wipes. Those are heavy and those are bad. They make this feminine product that is like what is it called? The Kula cloth is like a reusable cloth that you can use that is like antimicrobial and dries out in the sun. So that's something that women I know carry. What were the last two things? How do I get to town? Keep hiking. And then you go to sleep when the sun goes down, which is really nice. Yeah.
So nice.
Up with the sun, down with the sun. Beautiful. Etiquette for getting to camp. After dusk, use a red light. That's why you need a headlamp with a red light. Hiker midnight is at 9 o'clock. Seriously, they're all going to sleep at 9. Establish where your bear hang is going to be before you do anything else. You don't want to be throwing that rock bag in the dark. Kind of sucks. You also don't want to be the last person to get a tree. You might not get a good tree. You might end up hanging your food like across a river. I was going to talk about that earlier, but I almost died. Cook your food and then brush your teeth. You can spit your toothpaste into the woods. Jury's still out on whether or not it's like good to do that, but people do it. Some people get Tom's toothpaste, like natural toothpaste. I have done this and then just swallow it. If you spit on the plants though, expect to like see deer the next morning. They love licking that shit up. And then use the bathroom and then put all your smellables in your bag and then go to where your rock bag is and hang your shit in the tree like we were talking about earlier. Next. The beauties of backpacking. Reasons to go backpacking. Going outside is a good thing. That's what this club is for. There's a very clear sense of purpose. You have one direction to go in. And if you don't go that way, you're going to starve and die. So there's only one thing you can do. There's a lot of time to think. Up with the sun, down with the sun, like I was saying, is really nice. When I got home from my section hike, I was really sleepy around 8:30. Travel experience. I got to experience the true rural South when I was in Tennessee. It was crazy. It was awesome.
I got to go to Waffle House.
That is cool. I once like had a aluminum can and I asked them where their recycling bin was, and they pointed at the trash can, and I was like, no, recycling for this, and they were like, not trying to shit on the South. I liked being there. And you get to understand what you truly need versus what you want to have. You might go out on a backpacking trip with 65 liters of stuff and then finish with 40 liters and learn something about yourself and what you're comfortable with. Oh, nice. That's it.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to say? No. All right, cool. That's it.
Nice. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
It's in the member resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we actually recorded this whole thing.
Which is pretty cool. Oh.
Instead of a water bag?
I use these. These are smart water bottles. They're super light, and they're just basically indestructible. You could toss them down a mountain, they'll be fine. So, no, this is the fun one. These also have like these little caps that you can like flip open. Not this one, but you can buy them that are really nice. So I'd use one of these instead of the water bladders. Yeah, usually I carry like 2 to 3 liters depending on what I'm doing. Yeah.
I carry 2 1-liter smart water bottles, and then I also bring with me, I have a Sawyer as well. All the Sawyer filters come with a squeeze bag that you fill with dirty water, and then you push it through the filter into your water bottles.
That's what this kind of is.
But those Sawyer ones suck, so I got a different one that's a liter.
This one's
this
sick.
brand is really popular. So if I need water for cooking and there's not a lot of water, I might fill up both water bottles and the squeeze bag, but I might not need to.
I wouldn't use the metal water bottles either.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
Nalgene's are bad. They're heavy.
Use the smart water
Nalgene's
bottles.
are great for campus.
True.
I have an Nalgene.
I have one too.
Oh, Nalgene's they're useful for winter hiking though. People they hold boiling water well, so people boil water and then they put it in their Nalgene and then they put it in their sleeping bag, keep them warm.
Is the chance that I encounter with a bear big?
Depends on how good you are at the bear hang. I won't say no.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen one.
But what if I encounter with a bear?
Make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
There are videos about this that explain it way better than I can explain it. Again, like the consensus is that black bears are more afraid of us than we are of them. If you make a shit ton of noise, they're gonna be like, "Whoa." I don't want to deal with that. But they might get weird if it's like a parent and their child. Then they might they might be protective of their child. So that's something to consider too. You wanna, I don't know, don't quote me on this. What I've heard is that you're supposed to back up slowly, make yourself big, keep making noise, and then like eventually get yourself to where you're higher than the bear. But that might have been debunked. I don't know. Look it up.
Yeah.
My reaction if I saw a bear would be to like slam my poles together and blow my whistle super loud. Yeah. So.
Nice.
Last question. Anyone gonna go backpacking?
Yeah. Woo! Let's go.
Oh wow.
Oh, awesome. So is Marcus and Ayla. What?
They'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you guys for coming. I know this kind of took a long time, but I hope this was super comprehensive. Yeah, it was way better than last year. So have a good night, guys. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at the meeting at 9 o'clock to sign up for trips. Woo! Let's go! Woo!
Press stop.